English narration, ready for TTS, a long wooden table. 9 children, a father, and a mother sit down to supper, 11 heads, 1 kerosene lamp, 1 bowl of bread passing hand to hand around the ring. And here's what, by every calculation, should be impossible: this father is not rich. No diploma, no career, no credit card, not a single subscription draining his account every month. Yet outside his farmhouse window hangs a number they repeat to you so often you've stopped hearing it: raising 1 child to 18, more than $300,000. 1. Maybe you're weighing whether to have a second. You count, you strain, you're afraid. And the man at this table looks at 9 and fears nothing. He counts them not as expense, as wealth. And this is no slip, no stubbornness, no blindness. He knows something you don't. I'm Amos. I grew up among these people, on land where they still plow with horses and light the house with a struck match. And I'm going to tell you what, beyond the fence, people have almost stopped saying out loud: why the Amish have so many children, 7 on average, and across many farms 10, 12, 14, and why this is not poverty and not backwardness, but the most carefully built system I know. 7 reasons. Almost none of them are what you're thinking right now. Not one of them costs $1. And the 7th, the hardest, the modern world has understood exactly backwards: stay to the end, because this is the one thing no one explains to you. Let's start at dawn. 5 in the morning, Thursday. Not Saturday, Thursday. The Amish hold weddings on weekdays, in the middle of autumn, when the harvest is already in the barn and the house has found the time. The bride is 20, the groom 22. No one waited 10 years for a career, no one saved for a down payment, no one put family off until, when we're ready. The arithmetic here is merciless: whoever marries at 20 instead of 35 gains a full decade, and into that gap fits an entire generation. But it isn't only about years. No empty apartment and no silence between 4 walls awaits this young couple. A ready-made world greets them: relatives half an hour away by buggy, a church district of 30-some families who already know them by name, remember their grandfathers, know where whose land ends. They don't start from zero, they step into something that has been building for 200 years and was waiting for exactly them. And so a child in this house arrives not as a guest who must be provided for, but as someone awaited so they can be given a place at the table and work for their hands. Stand with me at the barn door at dawn. The child is 6. Beyond the fence, a 6-year-old is driven to activities, a coach is paid, the child is entertained so as not to be bored. Here he goes to gather eggs from under the hens while the dew is still on the grass and the boards chill his bare heels. At 8 he drives the cows to milking and knows each one by her temper. At 10 he handles a team in the field, and the horses obey him. With my own eyes I've seen a boy of about 12 lead a draft horse twice his height into its stall, calmly, without fear, as if he were brewing tea. There's the difference the world overlooked: on a farm a child is not a line of expense, but a pair of hands that grows stronger every year. By 7 or 8 he already gives the household more than he eats at the table. Here the family is not a nest emptied by hungry beaks, but a homestead that grows along with the number of children, land, livestock, garden, workshop, all of it fed by labor, and labor is the children. But one farm could never raise 8 alone. Behind it stands something larger. And here stop, because the world skips this step every time. Among the Amish, labor is not the thing that steals a child's childhood. Labor is the upbringing, all of it, whole, with nothing left over. Beyond the fence, a child is raised with words: sit up straight, be kind, try harder, you'll understand later. Here he's raised by doing. The boy who at 10 is responsible for the cows being milked before school knows something about responsibility that no lesson can teach. The girl who at 12 bakes bread for 11 mouths and never once ruins the dough knows more about her place in the world than many a grown adult beyond the fence. They aren't taught to be useful, they are useful, and they grow in it. The father doesn't lecture about diligence, he simply lays a hand on his son's shoulder beside him in the field, and that is enough. The child sees why he is needed, every single day, from dawn. And so he doesn't spend years searching for himself somewhere out there, he has already found himself before he's even learned to read. It's hard, I won't lie, the back aches, the hands are calloused by 15, in winter you rise before light into a freezing house. No one will tell you it's easy. But out of that hardship comes a person who at 16 is steadier than many a 30-year-old. Remember that feeling of being needed, we'll come back to it at the end, and it turns everything over. The barn roof collapsed. Beyond the fence, you call, you wait, you pay the bill they send later. Among the Amish, by morning 40 men from the neighboring farms are standing in your yard, by midday the walls are up, by sunset the barn is finished, and the women have already set long tables for everyone. No bill, no insurance, not a single dollar changing hands. The barn raising is not a postcard legend, it's how everything here holds together. And the very thing that raises a barn in a single day raises children day after day. Mothers here are not alone for a single hour, a grandmother across the road, 3 aunts in the same district, an eldest daughter of 10 who already tends the little ones as if she were born to it. No one pays for daycare, because there is none and none is needed. There are 20 pairs of hands in families who know each other by name, by sorrow and by joy. Beyond the fence, a child costs so much largely because parents carry him as a pair, or even alone, and buckle under the weight. Here that weight is spread across the whole district, and no one's back breaks. And I've saved the most interesting part, it explains why the old people in these houses look upon their grandchildren more calmly than any pension fund. The Amish have no pension. No social security, they are officially exempt and gave it up themselves decades ago, voluntarily, on principle. No policy, no savings account, no nursing home at the end of the road. Ask the man at that long table who will bring him water at 80, who will plow his field when his hands can no longer hold the reins, who will keep him warm through his last winter, and he'll nod silently toward his children. There is his pension. Not paper in a safe, not a number on a screen, but 9 grown adults raised under his roof who know a law firmer than any written one. You don't hand the old over to strangers, you take the old into a warm room beside the kitchen, where it smells of bread and the voices of grandchildren carry. Beyond the fence, people save for old age and money and still fear it won't be enough. Here they save in children, and fear nothing at all. And so every child in this house is not a risk and not a luxury, but an investment that returns precisely when you are more helpless than anything else on earth. Stop everything for a second and answer yourself honestly, then write one word in the comments. How many of your neighbors do you know by name? Not by a face in the elevator, not by a car in the lot, by name, by their children's names, by who was sick last winter and how it ended. For the man at that table the answer is short, all of them. All 30 families of his district. And here's the whole stake of this conversation in a single line: few children are born not because people suddenly stopped loving children, but because the world is arranged so that a child has become expensive, and you have to raise him alone. The Amish didn't crack some secret of fertility, they simply never let anyone tear down what once made a child manageable for an ordinary family. Remember that, because where faith begins, everything goes deeper still. Come with me into the meeting house. Only there isn't one. The Amish have no church as a building, they worship in turn in their homes, and every 2 weeks someone's barn or parlor becomes a place of service for 3 hours, on benches without backs, under singing without a single instrument, voices alone. And within these walls lives a reason that beyond the fence is spoken ever more quietly, as if in shame: a child here is not a project, not a lifestyle choice, not an item on a to-do list between career and mortgage. A child is a gift. Faith commands that children be received the way a harvest is received. However much is given, that much is blessing, and it is not yours to judge the number. They aren't put off for later or capped by counting, not out of calculation, but out of a deep conviction that it is simply not in human hands. I'm not asking you to believe what they believe, and I won't presume to judge how your family reckons its own number, that is yours and yours alone. I'm asking you to see one thing: what happens to an entire people when they stop asking, can we afford another one, and begin asking, how do we welcome the one already given? Everything changes to its foundations. And now, the thing you watched this far for. The seventh reason overturns the previous six all at once. Add them together: early marriage, the child as working hands, labor instead of lectures, the district instead of daycare, children instead of a pension, faith instead of calculation, and you'll see one thing: the world has turned inside out. Beyond the fence, a child is an expense. They tell you so in plain words: $300,000, a minus to your career, a minus to your sleep, a minus to your freedom. The child is subtracted from your life. Among the Amish the child is added. He adds hands on the farm, support in old age, one more strong thread in the net of the district that catches you when you fall. The very same child, in one world, makes a family poorer, and in another, richer. And this difference was not created by the Amish through their stubbornness. It was created by the world beyond the fence, when step by step it carried the family out of the household. It sent work off to the factory and the office, the old to the nursing home, turned neighbors into strangers behind a wall, and reduced protection from every misfortune to a bill that arrives each month. It didn't make children more expensive out of malice or whim. It simply dismantled, brick by brick, everything that once made them manageable, and left you alone, one-on-one with a child, and a price tag in your hand. The Amish don't have many children in defiance of logic, as it looks from the outside. They have many children precisely because they alone kept the logic under which it still makes sense. That's why the numbers are so hard to believe, and here's the bombshell it was worth listening for. The world looks at the Amish and sees, too many children, a backward way of life, a dead end. But in fact before you stands one of the fastest growing groups on the entire planet. A people that began in the year 1693 with a handful of followers of Jacob Ammon in Europe now numbers close to 350,000 across Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana and beyond, and doubles roughly every 20 years. Think about it, it isn't an influx from outside that multiplies them, almost no one joins from the outside. Their own children multiply them. And here's the figure that turns everything over: 8 or 9 out of every 10 children, once grown, stay. They stay, even though they're free to leave. After 16 the young have Rumspringa, years when they're allowed to step beyond the fence, to try the outside world, cars, the city, all of it, and then decide for themselves. No one holds them by force. And 9 out of 10, having seen both lives with their own eyes, return to the same lamp, the same long table, the same hard labor. The backward way of life is quietly winning, demographically, in exactly the place where the modern world, for all its money and freedoms, is dying out and can't talk itself into having a second child. And here's where the real secret lies, not in the number of children, so come back to that feeling of being needed we left out in the field. Having many children is only half the task. The earth has seen peoples who multiplied and dissolved within a century. The Amish mystery isn't in how many children are born, but in the fact that the children, grown and having seen it all, want to stay. And they want to because from the age of 6 they knew why they were here. A child raised by doing, not by entertainment, who at 12 was already awaited at the milking, who was held not by fear but by a place at the table and a father's hand on his shoulder, such a child, stepping beyond the fence, sees there not freedom but emptiness, where no one truly needs him. And he returns. Not because he wasn't let out. Because there he is awaited, known by name, and unimaginable to be without. That's what holds them, not walls, but being needed. Now gather the whole picture in one breath: early marriage grants an extra decade, the farm turns a child into a worker, labor turns a worker into a person, the district lifts the burden off one set of shoulders, old age is secured by children and not by paper, faith removes the very question of, how many can we manage, and being needed brings the grown children home. And it all rests on one quiet reversal: where you see an expense, they see wealth. 7 reasons, but really one system, and it has run without a fault for 300 years. And for you today, not a farm and not 9 children. One simple task, the cheapest of them all. This evening, Learn the name of one of your neighbors. One name. Everything I've described to you begins here, with a net, not with money, with people, not with a bill. And then answer me in the comments in one word, off the top of your head, without thinking, how many of your neighbors do you know by name, all of them, a few, or none? I read these answers, every one, and they say more about our world than any figure from any report. And now that you understand how these people count their children and what truly holds them together, you're ready for the next question, the one that sends a chill down your spine: why in their homes you won't find a single family photograph, and why their daughters' dolls have no faces. This is not savagery and not a ban born of fear, behind it stands a reason no less carefully thought out than everything I've told you today. But that one I'll leave for another evening. I'm Amos. And now you know it too.